The Origin and Destiny of God. Science Inadvertently Gives New Insights by James H. Birch. And I'd like you to consider this a conversation rather than as a strict lesson. So we will begin with lesson conversation 1, God. Stephen Hawking's and Leonard Mlodinow's book, The Grand Design, explains the science behind their being able to state a great many universes were created out of nothing. Their creation does not require the intervention of some supernatural being or God, and thus they pull out of circulation society's fundamental spiritual foundation, which is that there is a God because something had to create all this. They shatter, in just that statement, the fundamental logic that gives hope to most of the world. There it is, after all these centuries, right out in the open, pulling down everything. And yet, God bless them, what a great eye-opening spiritual awakening they have given us. Our understanding of God just matured by a quantum leap, if you will pardon the pun. But you'll have to read to the end to see how this is so. And here's a hint for you, to give you a taste of what's to come. This God is loving consciousness expressing itself. There's an old adage that says if horses had gods, they would look like horses. In that vein, our God usually is conceived of as a really super person. You know, we don't know everything, so God is omniscient, all-knowing. We can't be everywhere, so God is omnipresent, and so on. Whatever our God is, it is more than we can imagine. But that, of course, will never stop us from trying. The headway we can make in understanding can only be real if we first of all admit to ourselves that we will never get it all, because we can never be it all. We could only understand it completely if we were it completely, and that isn't to be. To begin with, we must of necessity start with some assumptions, and then later we look over our shoulders to see if those assumptions still make sense. Our grounding assumption is that this great mystery that most of us call God, but some of us call Allah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, higher consciousness, great spirit, higher power, or some 300 other names in the human vocabulary, is not an individuated entity, a separate being, but rather is all that is not, and all that could be. God is totality. At its core, God is effusive, loving consciousness. Anything individuated would have had a beginning and a prior cause. It would point beyond to something else that would be God of which it spoke. But even our words like totality tend to convey us into a roped-in boundary beyond which there is nothing. The concept that we call God, however, has to be more than that. To get even a hint of this nature of God, being all that is and all that is not, we have to go back into our minds, back beyond words. Assuming that God is indeed all that is, all that can be, and all that is not, then we ourselves are manifestations of God, individuated aspects of that whole, because there is nothing that is outside of it. And at the core of our deepest selves, we are in touch, back at our essence, with the oneness of God manifesting God's self in all its myriad forms. We can sense, but never completely comprehend, the totality of God. Strangely enough, we all do sense that, even if we use different words or no words at all. God is the perfection out of which everything individuated arises. All that God manifests God's self as must therefore ultimately be perfect also. God does not make mistakes. There is too much evidence of what works right, too much marvelous and interactive complexity, too much an organized and smooth running, evolving out of chaos universe for us to think that what we do not understand is flawed because we don't get it. To the degree that some aspects of physical spiritual reality do not seem correct to us, that may be the degree to which we simply do not understand them. We know of God through the physical universe, through our perceptions of it, and through our interactions with other people and things. Now this is important to remember, especially we'll get to some things later on, that we understand God through this physical universe in which we exist. Part of our indomitable nature seems to be to want to know it all, and to know it yesterday, of course. But that clearly is not to be, at least as far as we can see into the future. And so there is our sense of limited perfection in the little that we comprehend at this point in the unfolding consciousness of the universe. One of the most fascinating observations made in speculative science lately has been the discovery that if we were to, let's hypothetically say, we were to cup our hands and extract from within that cupped hands all the atoms from that space, and then also extract all the photons, because there are over 1 billion photons or light waves connected with each elementary particle. Let's say we pull all those photons out of that space as well. We would be left then with a pure vacuum. Of course, science has not yet been able to achieve a pure vacuum, but we're just speculating here. But scientists tell us that even if we were to get that pure vacuum, out of it, elementary particles would emerge. Amazing. This tells us something, all right, about God, about God's presence in all that is not, and all that can be. God is the force of science fiction writers. God is the source of creation and the sustaining power of everything that is physical. God is the under of everything outer, and the outer of everything under. Let me say that one again. God is the under of everything outer, and the outer of everything under. We simply have no idea how big everywhere is. If particles can emerge out of absolute nothingness, that means that the holy mystery, the intelligence, energy, spirit, life, and power that is within that nothingness is indeed there. For about 13.7 billion years now, the universe has been expanding outwards at 186,000 miles per second, the speed of light. What lies beyond the edge of that universe? Some scientists speculate that if we ever found the outer edge of the universe, we would be right back at the beginning where it started, a circular universe. However, if there is nothingness out there, then God is within that nothingness as well. Could God be manifesting God's self in ways other than we recognize as part of this universe? Probably so. Scientists now believe so. Infinite is then beyond our comprehension. There could be innumerable ways that God is expressing God's self outside of our universe. There could be other universes. In fact, some quantum physicists posit that at the micro level, at the quantum level where there is no time, there are not just the 3 usual dimensions that we speak of, up, down, right, left, forward, backwards, and the 4th dimension of time, but that 7 additional space-time dimensions are curled under the basic elements of the universe, not affecting us, but manifesting as multiple universes beyond our comprehension, far beyond our comprehension. The vastness of this universe is almost beyond what we can grasp. If we were to shrink our sun and all its planets to the size of a postage stamp, then the Milky Way galaxy within which our solar system lives would be the size of the United States, and there would be between 400 billion and 1 trillion of those galaxies making up the known universe. Buckminster Fuller once said that most of us are totally oblivious that we are on spaceship Earth, flying through the universe at 1,000,000 miles an hour with no need of seatbelts, plenty of leg room, and really good food. If we are largely unaware of our place on Earth, we are even more unaware of our place in the universe. If we are oblivious looking outward, we are also probably oblivious looking inward. The only way that we know, and the only way that we can know what we call God, is to look at the expressions of God. This includes not only the physical stars and planets, but also the life generated in the universe. Within the animal kingdom, the largest classified subgroup is insects, and there are approximately 850,000 species of them. There are over 500 species of roundworm and 40,000 vertebrate species. Among vertebrae, there are 9,000 bird species, 6,000 reptile species, and 4,500 mammalian species. This is the entire milieu from which we make our deductions about the nature of this power and mystery that we call God, and it is only a small part of this nature and this power and this mystery that we call God. The first living cell came into existence on this planet about 4 billion years ago, and now they're covering the Earth. But we living organisms use cells that are not living also. Each human being has 1 quadrillion, that's a 1 with 15 zeros after it, cells, 1 quadrillion cells, 90% of which are not human cells at all. Each human cell has 400 billion molecules and trillions upon trillions of atoms. There are 1 septillion, that's a 1 with 24 zeros after it, activities, 1 septillion activities happening simultaneously in the human body. 10 times more activities going on in every human body at any given split second than there are stars in the universe. All of this is happening without our even noticing it. The entrepreneur Paul Hawking says, each of us is as complex and beautiful as all the stars in the universe. When we look in the mirror and think, I don't look so hot today, when we feel the world is piling on us and we're inadequate, it's good to remember that each of us is as complex and beautiful as all the stars in the universe. And yet, what we know is all we know, but it's not the all of it. Where did humanity come up with a concept such as God? Many say it is the result of wishful thinking. Reverend Thomas Harper, an Anglican priest and author of Life After Death, wrote in the Canadian magazine Maclean's in April 30th, 1992, this: "It is now my conviction that in the phenomena related to near-death experiences, that is what has convinced humans from earliest times that there is life beyond the grave rather than the other way around. Instead of being the product of an attempt to deal with the enigma of death by projecting one's wishes into another world, the near universal belief in a hereafter is, in my view, the attempt at different times and in different places through direct experience."